Hello everyone, I'm Gary, co-founder and creative director at Flyos. Today, we'll take a look at the journey of writing and producing a scenario for Vampire the Masquerade chapters. We'll go through the different stages of creation, from the high-level story to its wireframe and its advanced branches in our dedicated software. Let's go.
Hello to you all. I'm Thomas, co-founder and executive director of Flyos. As you may already know, Vampire has been an RPG that we have cherished for over 20 years now. And when the opportunity to create a game in this universe presented to us, we immediately knew what story we wanted to tell. A mature, immersive, and dark story that echoed the Montreal by Night of 1999. It's a campaign that reflects our vision of Vampire and our attachment to the lore.
After Paradox Interactive enthusiasm and approval, we have therefore drawn the outlines for this story. For months, every element of the narrative structure was reviewed. Each pivot of the story has been divided into multiple branching scenarios. This campaign purpose was to appeal to both fans of the license, but also introduce new players to the table.
Once the campaign structure was completed, it was time to surround ourselves with passionate and talented writers. For almost 2 years, 10 writers have helped us participate in the development of the story. And this past year, in particular, our in-house team has worked hard in the tiniest details.
Their role was to start from our initial concept and transform it into this.
Hi, I'm Simon, narrative designer at Flyos. Writing a chapter for chapters almost always starts with brainstorming. We spread our ideas out on a large whiteboard and look for all the possible connections within a given chapter and the game as a whole. And also we look for the most creative way to achieve that. For example, in chapter 32, the coterie escapes from a very recognizable building in Montreal with a bunch of very angry people after them. They will be given multiple options to successfully escape their pursuers. Our responsibility then is to think of the multiple possibilities that will be offered to you, the players, while maintaining a coherent narrative continuity. Once this is done, we synthesize these ideas into a pitch, which is sent to Paradox Interactive for approval. A pitch is generally a one-pager that summarizes the level design, the narrative of a specific scenario and how it fits into the greater story, and also highlights the choices offered to the players.
Oh hi, my name is Thomas, narrative designer at Flyos. When pitches are approved, we start to work on the wireframe for the chapter. Now at this stage, we create the most basic version of the scenario, building around the main concepts of the chapter that players will eventually play through. In chapters, dialogues, investigations, and events are put together in a booklet. Players will refer to these throughout the scenario to track the outcomes of their choices and the development of the main narrative. Simply put, the wireframes are an early, simplified roadmap of where we want to go. Keeping every single card to a few words only, we explain the intention and goals of every character important to the scene, and we build the early framework of the choices you'll be able to make, as well as their consequences. It's also at this stage that we begin working on the level design. We position elements on the tile, NPCs, action tokens, areas to be investigated, and we ensure that they not only work mechanically, but that they make sense in the narrative as well. Now this makes the balance between writing the plot and the gameplay elements of the scenario a crucial point that determines, in the end, how fun the entire experience ends up being.
Hello, I'm Gaspard, game designer at Flyos. At each step of the process, and particularly during wireframes, we want to make sure that a scenario works at all levels. In the distribution of cards used, for example. We want to make sure that every skill and every customization can be sufficiently present and cohesive. In the balance of difficulties, in the assurance that each branch leads to the right place, in the difficulty of proposed fights. In short, the QA of each scenario is a very demanding task in terms of time and focus, but which in our eyes are fundamental.
Once the wireframes have been edited and approved, we move on to the next step, the advanced branching phase. Now, this phase consists of transforming each page or card of the wireframe into its final version. This advanced version includes all of the flavor and personality of the NPCs, of their interactions, and any subtleties we wish to insert in the scenario. To begin, this is where we check for narrative continuity. As this is the most obvious aspect of the game you as players will notice, we need to ensure that the choices you make will have an impact on not just the scenario, but also, in many instances, the game as a whole. For example, we have an NPC that can die in a side quest. And this will affect the way the players, you, will interact with other NPCs in the main campaign, many scenarios later. It's also in this phase that we go into the granular and flesh out the personalities of NPCs and ensure that they respect their previously established personalities and goals. These little subtleties are what makes these NPCs more than just quest givers or enemies to kill. Finally, we expand upon the structure established in the wireframe and make sure that each page is fun to read and fun to play through.
The advanced branching is entered into a software specifically designed for this purpose, the frogs. This software automatically checks the validity of branches, automates the use of call to actions, and ensures the export of layouts in their final format. This program, still in development, is a tool that combines multiple QA and graphic design functionalities in the broad sense. No tool existed to meet our creative needs for a game of such magnitude, so we created it.
Once the advanced branching of a scenario is completed, it is sent to Paradox Interactive for final approval. This step can take up to 2 weeks, as each scenario now averages 60 to 90 pages.
The approved scenarios are then sent to our various external partners. First, proofreading and copy editing. We ensure the highest quality and follow-up of the text and the lore. This step takes quite some time before we send it to translation in 3 other available languages. Our Spanish and German translator worked on the V5 localization, and they are passionate and meticulous. As the game is also an introduction to the universe of the World of Darkness, the vocabulary must be as universal as possible.
The graphic design and layout phase is the stage in which scenarios comes to life. This is where the illustrations of the different places, characters, items are integrated, and where the booklets, tiles, and storybook are edited. Once the layout is done, each booklet is printed and assembled in black and white for a final review.
Each page is read, commented, connected, and dissected in depth by each member of the team. Comments are entered according to their level of importance. Once the comments have been reviewed, the booklets are produced in their final format, ready to be sent to the manufacturer.
Over the past year, we have refined our methodology, developed tools dedicated to our production, increased the volume of writing to make chapters experience even more immersive.
So yes, writing for chapters is a long, multifactorial process. Each step of the narrative design brings a new dimension to the great story we originally crafted.
The team gives all their creativity, energy, and passion to make chapters an exceptional game, an extraordinary adventure, and this adventure will be yours very soon.
Thank you so much for your support. See you soon.